Hey everyone, welcome to the November Agile Austin Product and AI SIG. So happy to have you here today. Hopefully you're here to see Elena Leonova to talk about the brutal truth about AI product success. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Elena in a moment, but before I do, I'll spend just a few minutes talking about Agile Austin. Here's our mission. We are free for everyone. I'll talk a little bit about membership, but even though it's Agile Austin, many of us are in Boston, Seattle, and other places around the world. We also record these and they go on our YouTube playlist, and so anybody can see these at any time. As such, if you want to turn off your camera and don't want to be recorded and be on YouTube, please feel free to do so at this point. We have a great board of directors just elected recently. We're very happy to have their service in helping the mission of Agile Austin, which includes this product and AI SIG. There's a couple of opportunities to sponsor. We've had many long-term sponsors. They help provide all Zoom and all the other kinds of things that we do that are free. You can become a member. There's a couple of benefits there. You can vote and special events and training. There's some discounts and so on and so forth. This is the complement today of the Agile Austin content that happens regularly, coaching, scale, lean, Kanban, leaders, product and AI SIG. So just lots of different kinds of things. And of course, the book club, which is the way to go super deep if you want to go super deep into any particular topic. We have great sponsors, Agile Velocity for more than a decade. I don't want to say decades because that makes me feel old. ResumeX, new sponsor this year, and Ad Meloria Coaching. Thank you to all of them. There's a special discount. Or excuse me, if you're a member, you can apply to a professional development scholarship and get the next course on us. So please feel free to reach out to either Vishal or I if you're curious about that. There's also a 15% discount for Agile Velocity training courses for you and your team. They are in Austin, but I think they work everywhere. Good folks, been in the community for a really long time. Vishal and I are both volunteers. And if you are interested in starting a program or being part of our many programs, including the upcoming Keep Agile Austin. I said that wrong every time I do. That conference, I think, is next April. So coming up, there's going to be calls for speakers. There's going to be all these things that are coming up. Super fun conference to attend in person or
Save the
virtually.
date. Save the date, April 10th.
Save the day. Okay, Marina, you're on the committee. Okay, awesome.
Not yet. I might. I might get on there.
Okay, cool. I'm on the
April 10th.
committee. I'm on the committee, but I'm lacking. I need some help. So just a little bit about us. Here's a little bit about Vishal and I, who became members of Agile Awesome back in '07. And then here's a little bit about the product and AI SIG. It's product, it's AI, it's Agile, it's where they intersect. We put the word product here first because this SIG is first and foremost priority is product management. So that's what we want to serve through this community. We actually have an open slate right now of we're taking off December, January and February is open. So we will be updating folks on the content soon. Speaking of content, we got Elena here. And she's going to be talking about why most AI products fail spectacular. I love, actually, one of the, Marina may know this, one of the first iterations of the Agile conference was going to be called Agile Pitfalls, and I just wanted to talk about how Agile fails. So when you talk about failure, I really love it because it's how we learn, right? Like everything. It's like you watch my 1.5-year-old daughter. She tries, she fails, and then learns. Like it's just amazing to watch it. So we're seeing like lots of these efforts becoming, product dev camps, or they put a whole bunch of resources into these efforts, and then like they double down, and they're still not getting the results, right? And so she's going to talk about her experience at Spryker, and she's got a great framework for us to help think about how we solve these problems and how to do it. So pretty excited to have her talk about these counterintuitive strategies, which are some of the most fun ones, and knowing when to bet on each. I love that word bet because it's like these things are all probabilistic in nature. So anyway, I'll defer with my comments about how this great is this going to be, and I will introduce Elena. and I'm going to stop sharing in just a moment. Elena is a product executive. She has 15 years of experience in product management, most recently serving as the chief product officer at Spryker, a global digital commerce platform startup. And her career spans across roles at PayPal, eBay, BigCommerce, and Spryker, of course, during innovation, scaling products across international markets. With that, Elena, we are so happy to have you here, and I'll hand the floor over to you.
Thank you so much. So let's first do the check, make sure that you can hear me well. Everything fine? Cool. Awesome. All right. So let me share my screen and then we can get started. All right. You can see.
Path. Take it
Yep,
to the grapevine right, grapevine left. Let's
there we go.
Perfect. Well, so first of all, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you everybody for finding time on a Friday evening to join, to listen in, to let me actually share my experiences, and I would love to make this session interactive. So I'll definitely share a lot of the things that I wanted to share, some of the things that I learned the hard way, the easy way, some of the tears and pains, and kind of some of the lessons that I took from it. But at the same time, definitely know that let's try to use the chat. It's gonna be way more fun if we do it interactive. And I also want to prep you. I have a couple of interactive slides. If you have your phone next to you, we will do the Slido. So definitely have that handy as we go through the presentation. If not, we'll figure something out. All right. So with that, so you already heard that Oh my God, welcome somebody from Nigeria. Thank you so much. It's even later that I thought somebody would join. All right, so first of all, so we're gonna talk about I know our favorite topic now of all times, which is AI. And everybody is now either have their AI native products, and we know many of them, whether it's Nathan or Lovable or many of those other ones. But at the same time, there are so many products that existed before that now need to evolve into this age of AI. And I have been working across many different companies throughout my career, which obviously have not been AI first, just by the nature of kind of what we're talking about. But they have to figure out how to become AI first. And this is one of the biggest tasks, the biggest challenges that many product leaders, especially, are facing, but not just product leaders, because ultimately, product success and AI product success is responsibility of everybody, whether you're in engineering and product, customer success, sales, marketing, you name it. So today we're going to be trying to learn a couple of things that, from my perspective, work or doesn't work, and then how can we actually think through AI. All right. So one of the things that I have learned, in kind of like in my experience, been hearing that I know within the last 2 years, we hear it across the board. So everybody's saying to everybody that we need to do something with AI. And the truth is that if you work in kind of VC-backed companies or if you work for public companies, depending on the sector, but especially if it's technology, you have the board who's asking you for AI. If you have positions like, chief product officer, like the one that I have recently, you're definitely being pressured for doing something with AI. Your sales team wants to do something with AI because everybody else is AI first already, and I know your company might be the one that is not. Marketing wants to do something with AI because they need to write new content about some AI features and AI capabilities. I know your customers, we would
I
assume.
think you were the all these topics and the local channels. Maybe I read it out. It's
Sorry,
really not much.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
find who that is.
Okay.
I can probably just mute everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, that's right. Go ahead, Elena.
Okay, perfect. And then a lot of people also assuming that customers also want AI, and to some extent that's true or not. But at the end of the day, if we're thinking about building technology products, we want to build the products that customers love, but at the same time making sure that the company that we're building it for are also financially viable and financially stable and ideally profitable, or at least is on the path of being profitable. So now the question is, would AI actually be that magical solve? Because it's not that you want to have AI, you actually want to have the company that is profitable, that is growing, that is going to be not the one that I know would not have layoffs and stuff like that we all kind of have been experiencing around us. So before we dive into kind of lots of those things, I wanted to share a couple of things about me, and we will kind of just kind of from there dive into it. So I spent a lot of years in product. You already heard it, so I don't need to report to share the same thing. And then kind of over the course of those years, I not only been kind of doing product management myself, but also coaching and helping product leaders, aspiring product leaders, as well as smaller startups to also think strategically about the product. Product management is definitely a passion of mine. And therefore, I love being involved in more things than kind of just the company that I work for. And if you wonder kind of where my accent is from, I'm Ukrainian, so it's not a Texan accent if that's what you've been thinking until now. All right, now it's time to grab your phones. We'll try to do a little bit of a check of where everybody is. So take your phone, or if you don't have your phone, join just slido.com and then you will need to enter this code. And the question that I want you to answer is within your roles, and I know that we probably have folks across different roles, but AI has become a mandate for everybody. Kind of everybody needs to do something with AI. So have you been asked to implement AI, do something with AI without a clear product strategy? Has it been the case for you or not? So let's see. So far we have a couple of people who voted. So yes, a lot, not yet. I know the ones who are in the category of not yet, you guys are definitely the lucky ones because I feel like that has been my life for the last couple of years. Yes, a little bit. Yes, a lot. So let's see. You can probably count the ones who have a clear ask on one hand. Yeah, well, that's true. Um, All right. Well, it seems like we're in this room at least. We're kind of divided because some people have been asked to implement AI. There's probably also the way I'm asking the question is probably a little bit guided because maybe you do have a clear product strategy, but most of the time I see that people do want to do something with AI real fast. Everybody else is AI first and AI native. And I know we kind of need to be the ones who are not falling behind. So therefore, the question is, so how do we actually decide which AI features we want to be adding, or how do we modernize our product? And again, we're going to be talking about those existing products that existed way before this whole AI wave came in, because there are many of those products, and that's kind of where the majority of the challenges are happening. All right. So most of the time, kind of when I see what happens and kind of when I consult people on products, I know because of the same mandate of adding AI features, so people do feel like they need to add AI features, and people start with sometimes with quick wins, sometimes with what they feel like needs to be done. Maybe a competitor has done something, or maybe I know somebody was doing a POC. So I know whatever the root cause is, we need to do something with AI. We need to do it fast because otherwise we're going to be falling behind. So we're adding AI features. I know, and then most of the time, what we see that customers don't use those AI features. So the solution to it is actually building more AI features, hoping that customers are now going to use them. And then there's still no usage. And that's kind of what we see that kind of in this death trap, we're confusing shipping AI for creating value. Because ultimately, if you're building a product, it's all about creating the value that somebody would be willing to exchange their money for that value. So how do we actually think about solving that? And we'll try to unpack that one by one. So the first one, which kind of I saw again in my career and across many other companies and many other product managers that I've been working on, that people go for the hype, and I feel like we're likely all feeling the same thing. So one day there is a AI, then next day there's agentic AI, then there's AI agents, and then there's so many different things, and now everybody's adding AI agents, while in reality they're in many cases are not that different from the chatbots that we had, I don't know, 10 to 5 years ago. But the problem is that when you're thinking about your clear strategy, you kind of still need to not miss the beginnings and the fundamentals. You need to get your strategic clarity. So, what is strategic clarity? So, first, you need to understand what are the real issues your customers are having or the opportunities of what they would want to realistically have. So, for example, since I spent the majority of my career in digital commerce, whether it's AI, whether it's mobile commerce or anything like that, customers who sell stuff, they want to make sure that they can actually still sell their stuff at scale. And they want to be able to reach out to customers where the customers, like where their shoppers are. So that's a real challenge and the real need. So therefore, when we obviously see the rise of agentic browsers, and we see the rise of LLMs and kind of the chatbots, kind of like OpenAI and ChatGPT and many of those other ones, we do need to be solving for that type of stuff. But at the same time, I know adding an AI capability that generates a description somewhere, creates an image, rewrites a text, as kind of how we see a lot of kind of in many of the tools right now, that is not necessarily actually bringing that much value to anybody. So when we're thinking about kind of deciding for the clarity, we still need to go back to the fundamentals. What is that real issue that the customer either have now or the opportunity of what they would want to have in the future? And then kind of from there, we're setting up the ambition. So let's say, again, I'm going to use an example of digital commerce. If now we have the new agentic browsers, then obviously we want to make sure that all of our customers who sell their products online, they are represented in those agentic commerce. We need to make sure that customers, their shoppers and buyers can find products in those browsers. That is a real need and a real opportunity. Everything else might not be kind of that specific challenge. So therefore, you kind of need to think for yourself in the same way. So what is the real issue instead of just going for the hype and kind of figuring out like what are those kind of quick wins or easy solutions that you would be thinking about. When you have that North Star, whether you want to be kind of this agentic commerce platform or whatever that be can be the case in your industry, make sure that you have specific measurable outcome, which is kind of more of the business growth. Obviously have a specific clear time frame, and then make sure that again you have your clear why, which is I know pretty much fundamentals of product management even before. But now you need to make sure that, especially when you're applying AI more than ever, you kind of also need to think about what are going to be the financial side of those capabilities. Because if you're adding AI on top of it, like on behind the scenes, maybe you're not going to be able to offer your product for the same price that you had before. And the price and lots of those considerations are really important as well because kind of now we see democratization of software. We see that building the new software becomes cheaper. But if you add AI capabilities on top that have a variable cost to it, that actually might change the cost profile of your product. So therefore, again, kind of to summarize and kind of not gonna pause here for a long time, think about again, kind of zero in on the problems the customers have. I know, come up with the point of view of the future and have a few of those bolder bets where you can apply AI, but think from not just from a capability of what the customer might want, but also think about whether you would be able to offer that value for a specific price to them as well. Now, so how do you actually think about valuable capabilities? So what I've seen across many companies and many products is that now, and I know you probably can relate to it as well, is that many companies now existed for a long time, but then all of a sudden start calling themselves as AI first, AI native. Then you have this agentic AI chat capability, or I know they kind of basically start throwing in a lot of AI labels, hoping that that is actually giving them a lot of leverage. So now they are those AI first companies. But again, if we're thinking about creating successful products that customers are willing to exchange their money for, they need to be providing the value. And when we think about the value, so the principles of the value in technology has not necessarily changed. So there are four primary innovation levers. And I kind of at first wanted to call them AI levers, but in reality, they are still kind of just innovation levers. So when you're thinking about reinventing the product or inventing the product or a product capability, there are four different value levers that you likely need to hit. So the first one is cost. So let's imagine that I know you're using AI in order to make the product that you have now and the cost of serving that product to a customer cheaper. So think of it, imagine if AI would help you serve the customer in exactly the same way, but now would actually either give you more margin for you, but also maybe it's going to be a room for you to give discounts to your customers, and therefore you can lower your price and hypothetically attract more customers to your company. So that would be a great AI innovation, even though it actually might be more internal, kind of internal capability than external, besides the fact that you would be able to offer a different price. And that's really powerful. So a lot of the time when I see people thinking about AI capabilities, they are not necessarily thinking from that perspective. Another lever that you can pull is speed. So you can make actually the product faster or more responsive. And it can be not necessarily in terms of the page loads if you're thinking about technology, but it can be also in terms of how fast the customer can get to the outcome. Like you can imagine, and that's kind of where a lot of the generative AI capabilities are going to come and play. So imagine that you're creating a tool for email marketers, and it took them a long time to create a blog post, and then from there create emails, and from there create some social media content and stuff like that. And it used to be kind of like this huge manual process, kind of where you need to make sure that everything is in standard, and kind of all of that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But now you can actually make this process easier with agentic AI or generative AI capabilities, where I know the Gen AI obviously going to generate, make sure that there's going to be some evals in place, and then there's going to be some agentic AI capabilities that will check the quality and standards of all of it. So now, if we're talking about the value that you will be providing now to your potential customers, you're not just providing the AI generated capabilities to your customers, you're also providing them a lot of operational savings capabilities, because you can say, well, it used to take 10 people to create this amount of content. Now, because of those capabilities, we're actually potentially saving a lot of efforts, and therefore you can achieve either more content or you can have less people doing the same amount of work. So that's something that is extremely valuable, and especially again, looking at many companies across the last 2 years, when many of the companies went through layoffs and operational optimizations, those type of capabilities where you can actually make something faster or more efficient, I would say, definitely resonate a lot. Another area that you can also invest is obviously making something more personal. And the personal would kind of, when we think about something personal, immediately it comes to mind kind of, I know, hello, Elena, and welcome to have you here, that type of experience. But it shouldn't be just that, right? So it can be kind of that type of product that learns from you. It can be this adaptive user experience where if I'm, I know, let's say doing product in one way versus somebody else who's doing product in a different way, or maybe focus on different tasks, our UI, our capabilities in that product are changing. So they are actually optimized for what exactly my role is versus kind of everybody's trying to use the same UI over and over again. And that's kind of what we still see a lot across the board. where when you log into any software, depending on who's using it, depending on the role, it still looks exactly the same. But we all have completely different goals. We have completely different responsibilities, and therefore there is an opportunity to make it more personal and more targeted towards the goals that we're trying to achieve. And then also kind of in a similar way is ease of use. So there's a kind of more about kind of still like personalizations, but small smart defaults, anticipating the user needs, using AI and automation, and we actually see the rise of AI automation tools right now. So it doesn't have to be just personalized, it can be just automated. So you can think of what are the type of things that we can make it easier for your customers to achieve, which is again gonna speak to a lot of the operational value. And then going back to the topic of our conversation today, which is how to make successful products and similarly how to not make successful products. So when we're thinking about all the products, in reality, again, people not necessarily care about that much of a product itself, but rather than value and outcome that they're trying to achieve. And then when you're able to speak to, like, come up with ideas across those four levers, and then articulate the value across those four levers, you would actually have better results than if you just go for here's AI generated capability here or AI agent here that may or may not deliver any specific result. Matt, I see your hand raised. You're on mute.
There we go. Unmuting myself. Is it all right if we sort of, is this interaction okay to raise hand
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
kind of throw something in? Cool. One of I love this, the make it cheaper. We had a presenter, actually, I worked with them, product manager. I worked with Darren Peterson, maybe June of 2004. I'll put the link in there. But we actually used AI, Bing, LLM specifically. Instead of, I'll summarize this, and you had a product that was trying to do cohort analysis of different customers into different business categories. And one way we were thinking of doing this was like paying for Dun& Bradstreet D&B information here in the US. They sort of say, here are industry codes and things like this. And we said, we could probably use the Bing service because we're on Azure and to do that kind of analysis, and it would be significantly cheaper than trying to get a subscription and productizing all these kinds of things. And it, while it wasn't perfect, it was like 90%, and it was a new feature that we were launching. And this was a long, it's getting to be a year and a half ago. And so it actually made it cheaper as we were building the product out and just saying, well, we could just do this versus, doing expensive integration D&B. The other thing that on top of all this was it was a safe way to learn about
Mm-hmm.
how to use and incorporate LLM technology specifically into our product set. And so the engineers and product got comfortable with it, and then we could, sort of iterate from there. It was like an experimental approach while it did some of these other kinds of things. So just want to throw that out. It was kind of like it helped not only for all these kinds of good reasons you're saying, but also even to learn how to use these things in an experimental approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think honestly, like when you think about those levers, it just opens up more options. Because again, like when we think about how people come up with ideas, everybody thinks of like, oh, we need to have another feature, kind of like a new thing that is gonna do another something. But in reality, you can go and like take and I think that's actually going to be the majority of the improvements of existing products where we take the same outcomes because people still need to have banking systems, people still need to have healthcare, and like the needs fundamental needs have not changed. But what we can change is actually how we deliver those how do we deliver products that solve for those needs. It can be cheaper, it can be faster, it can be more personal, it can be easier to use. So for example, let's say if we're talking about some legal software, I was just recently kind of dealing with some of the contracts that I had to review, right? So like one thing is going to be previously there would be a case management system where you can see the contract, but you have no idea what's written in there because language is so legal. Another way it would be like where now kind of this agent can go and kind of actually translate it to me so then I can understand it in plain words. That's a huge value versus kind of hiring another lawyer who's going to go and explain that to you. So just kind of my advice, thinking about those type of leverages as you're thinking about products and as you're suggesting them to your leadership team or anybody else who you're working with. Um, Another angle to thinking about products. And I've started seeing that a lot, that people obviously obsessed right now with all the new models that are being available. Like, for example, today we saw Gemini 3, and then kind of all of the other models, and people kind of like, oh my God, we use this model in our product or that product, or should we use kind of this model over that one? But the thing is that if you're trying to create successful product, you're looking for something that is going to make your product defensible. And you can make your product defensible in three different ways. So the first one is going to be the data mode, where you actually have proprietary data that is specific either for your industry, or maybe you actually like have access to a lot of your customer data, where now based on that data that you have about them, you are delivering something of value to them. So many of us, obviously can think of any health records that we have, and kind of with all the Apple Watches and those type of device trackers, they mostly collect a lot of data, but they don't necessarily provide a lot of signal to us. Now is the time to start building those type of products, and that's kind of an easier that comes to mind, but we probably can apply that to many other industries as well. Another mode that you can think of is behavioral. So, for example, I know you can think of any product that actually potentially can get better every time you use it. So, whether it's I don't know, let's say we're talking again about digital commerce, which is my domain expertise. When people are trying to sell their products, it's really hard to find the right channel that will work for them in the right combination. But if you're actually going for um, if you're trying to use AI in order to learn from everything that those people are doing in digital commerce systems, and you can say like, well, this channel is performing better versus that one, and I'll post on this day or do a sale on this day, and kind of you continue learning from that, your product will eventually get better. And then another mode would be the workflow. So again, we want to make sure that the workflow of how exactly the work is being done is a huge advantage. You can again apply AI across all of those three different modes, but kind of the whole idea is that when you're trying to make your product defensible against anything else that is happening out there in the world, think of the four levers as well as those three modes. So you either have the best product and the cheaper, faster because you have a lot of proprietary data, or maybe you have specific model that learns and helps customers with the behavior that's happening, or the workflow as well. So like you actually helping them to do their work easier, and majority of the work is happening for them. So again, kind of when I started applying kind of those type of this type of thinking to the products, like we definitely seen way better success with coming up with ideas for the products versus kind of again just looking for some AI label here and there. Well, now, so I wanted to turn it over to you again and just hear you guys how you think about AI. So when you're adding AI right now, and I'm not asking you from a perspective of how you use AI to do your job, like all the toolings, but mostly from a perspective of when you're building products or when you're working on products that are being built, what kind of levers are you pursuing? Do you actually even know what those levers are? Because if not, like that's a great opportunity to think about that. So I'll turn over here. I'll give you a second to log into Slido again. Hopefully it's not that much of a hassle. If it's too much, then we can actually also use chat. Okay, we have one participant who's in there already. Success. 3. Okay, perfect. It's working. Mm-hmm. So while we're voting, so I can say when about 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago by now, when I first started thinking about actually turning our product into be AI product as well, which is digital commerce. I was kind of in that fifth category where I didn't know what I was doing. I was just looking for some AI features, just like to put an label, to put an AI label on, and kind of it was hard, and then I was like wondering like why this is actually not working. So because then we will go to our customer and we're like, well, look, here's our AI generation, AI generated images, and they like, well, but we have proprietary products and we care about the design of our products, so that is not necessarily a value to us. Or kind of any of those other capabilities. But only when we started thinking about those levers, the things have started changing for us because you make it either easier or smarter or cheaper or faster. And then that does resonate with your customers. And even when you do kind of discovery with your customers, again, when you start kind of thinking and probing them for what is the most important to them right now based on their goals, that's ultimately really important as well. All right, now, so Um, another area that I also have been ex have explored and kind of experienced myself has been that when you think about AI and existing products again, and we're mostly going to be focusing on existing products. So when you're thinking about existing product existed for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or maybe more, which kind of still exist. Um, Everybody again kind of looks at like, oh my God, we need to be a first AI native, whatever. But what you need to understand is what are you actually trying to do? So are you trying to evolve your current product to have like AI sprinkles here and there, whether it's going to be what we talked about before, I know, have it cheaper, faster, smarter, or personalized? Or are you actually trying to completely change how the same outcome can be achieved? And then depending on that, and I'll give you an example. So for example, again, going back to example of digital commerce, and I would love to hear maybe there's some kind of products in your domain expertise that, where this kind of type of thinking is going to be applied. But for example, if we're thinking about digital commerce, and we all know what digital commerce is. For example, let's say if we're thinking about Amazon, you go, I know you see products, you search for products, you search for them or do whatever, add them to shopping cart, and this is your digital commerce. There's like lots of different flavors of platforms for different segments and stuff like that. But that's ultimately how digital commerce is being done across the world, regardless of which country, which region we're talking about. But with agentic commerce, things have changed. What they are trying to do is where you don't need to have those websites. You don't need to go and search for products and click to lots of different websites. You go to an agent. You say, "I'm looking for the perfect Christmas gift for my 5-year-old daughter," and that has to be, I know, the princess castle and I don't know Barbie or something, and the agent does the work for you, searches for the right product within the constraints that you have for shipping, for pricing, whatever. And then kind of from there, you can actually make a purchase, or maybe you even authorize that agent to go and purchase on your behalf if you're completely comfortable with that. So then kind of in digital commerce, both of those strategies can be applied. You can continue evolving your existing product and just make existing digital commerce cheaper or better. I know whether it's for the people who are selling or for the people who are buying, or you can completely change the game and completely kill all of those different e-commerce websites. You can completely kill everything that is happening behind the scenes on the e-commerce and switch to this kind of like API first, LLM first experiences. And like when you start thinking about the product, you kind of need to understand which game are you actually playing, because most of the time what I see is that people are trying to do both or neither or. They're somewhere in between where they're kind of trying to revolutionize this and kind of, I know, do something that never existed at the same time trying to put like an AI label on some of their existing capabilities. But ultimately, when you're applying kind of this framework and when you made a decision, which is a company-wide decision or at least products wide decision, there are lots of different kind of elements that you need to think about. So, for example, here you can see that you're looking for so like for example, if you're thinking for the outcome, so you're going to be looking for somebody kind of here you're trying to make your existing product cheaper, easier, and faster, and we already talked about it. But if you're playing the revolution game, you're trying to create a new mechanism that some people might not adopt. Some people might still want to have that old-fashioned digital commerce website. Or maybe you're trying to create a smarter behavior where, again, kind of might not work for everybody. And that does dictate who you would be able to sell this product to.
ના પછી મેં મારું બધું ઇન્સ્યોરન્સ બધું પતાવી દીધું.
Then you're also gonna be, if you're trying to, and again, our goal is to build the products that customers love, but also that are financially viable to the company. So make sure that you can actually make money on it as a company. So you need to be looking for different proofs of readiness to buy, which is gonna be either either kind of there's like new usage loops or something that you're seeing that people are adopting this product, or maybe you're seeing some commitments to buy and stuff like that. But there's also risks associated with it. And as I said, like the biggest risk and the biggest challenge we also realized, and I realized kind of in my work, is that when we were doing kind of neither, we didn't know which game we were playing. So we were trying to sometimes revolutionize the commerce in one way, and then in another way, kind of try to evolve the product, and then it was somewhere in between. So my advice to you, and kind of again, I would love to hear examples from you, if kind of if in within your companies you actually know what kind of game you're playing, and then kind of from there, are you choosing the right strategies, the right ways to develop, experiment, and test, and make sure that this product is going to have success that you're seeking for. So here also, since I said like I would love to hear from you, so I would love to hear from you, and I promise this is going to be the last one. So what kind of challenges are you experiencing with with trying to use actually AI within your company or building AI-centric products? I like the comment. So while you guys are doing that, I see there is a comment of AI is a revolutionary product itself. And it's interesting to see if it's capable of producing byproducts like killing, it's killing creativity. Well, I think it's an interesting comment because it definitely, I feel like it can definitely kill creativity if you don't use AI in the right way. Because if you're not, but this is like just my personal opinion, if you're not if you don't know what kind of problem you're solving and you're just kind of giving to ChatGPT or whatever you're using, just come up with 10 AI features, and nobody needs kind of those solutions, then obviously, kind of like you're now producing something that might not have any ideas. Because like I would rather use AI to help you come up with solutions that you have not thought about than actually giving you ideas for kind of what to build without knowing kind of what levers and what kind of outcomes are you trying to create. And I also would think that it's really hard to revolutionize your product with AI. Like if you're, I mean, like not from technical perspective, but like if you want to create something that didn't exist before, giving that task to AI, knowing that AI is kind of all trained on public data, probably is not the best idea. All right, so let's take a look what we have here. So the challenges. So we have the value, the brand voice, clarity, purpose. It's hard to measure the return on investment. Yeah. So all of those definitely valuable things and really valid challenges because kind of again, we're all being tasked, or a majority at least of us are being tasked to add AI without understanding what are the purposes, like what is that bigger picture that we're trying to go for? And is that bigger picture to evolve our existing product to become more AI native? Or is it going to be to achieve the same outcome? So we're still going to be within the same industry, but we're going to be thinking and delivering the value in a different way. So which is going to be more of a revolution. And then kind of from there, start thinking about the different bets and the different approaches, how you can apply AI. All right. Another thing that I wanted to give you real quick here is that most people obviously don't know what's going to work for their companies. And when you're thinking about like how to do AI, so what I saw and also kind of been prone to the same mistakes is that I know we either all go on AI full time or kind of like 100% everybody's focused on AI, or we do kind of I know quick wins or whatever. But in reality, kind of you need to like there's a way to make those AI bots strategic. So depending on your business, you kind of need to understand, are you trying to optimize existing products and therefore kind of that's going to be 70% of your focus because maybe you're trying to evolve your product. You also can be thinking about like, oh, maybe with AI, we're going to be creating and covering some adjacent capabilities, and that is going to be something kind of where you can actually apply AI. Or maybe there's going to be those transformative, more revolutionary bots. And then we know that that has a risk profile. We know that that might not be adopted right away. Therefore, we're going to be kind of setting kind of those specific bots to try. And then the thing is that kind of this percentage is never accurate. So for each company, you would need to decide what is the right mixture of the bets that you need to make. Is it going to be 70% on the core or 40, depending on your business? Is it going to be 30 on adjacent categories or adjacent capabilities, or less than that, or more? So that's gonna obviously depend on where you are. So we're coming closer to the end, and I know that we're like almost at the end of the hour. So just wanted to kind of quickly recap and kind of just remind you what we talked about. So first, there's a lot of hype about AI right now, which is definitely not a strategy. And that's what we saw in the answers that you provided, that the vision and the clarity and the purpose, that is lacking. And that is definitely lacking across the board. And it's a responsibility of all the leaders within the company to understand what exactly are you trying to create. From there, you need to understand whether it's going to be evolution or revolution, or maybe a combination, because you kind of are in that bridge. When you're thinking about that kind of evolution versus revolution, then think of kind of those value levers that you have and the modes as well, how to make your product delivering the value, but also defensible. And then also kind of be strategic about kind of how you actually place your bets, because just going all in for existing business might not be the right strategy. So when I share all of that, and people kind of like, oh, that's great. So that was a lot of theory. So what should we do now? Which is a great question. And the answer is that it always depends. Unfortunately, there is no single answer of what you should be doing and what is going to be working for your specific business. However, there's like some markers from me that I'm gonna give to you to decide and think about it. So, for example, let's say if you're a venture-backed company, and most of the time it would mean that you're likely chasing round, or maybe you are. There's going to be the next round of investments, or maybe kind of there's other KPIs that the VC and investors have for you. They're likely going to be looking for something that is revolutionary. It's just kind of what's in their nature. That's uh, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And a lot of people that I speak with, they don't even understand what type of companies are they working on. So understand, are you working for VC-backed company, and what is that end goal that investors might have? Are you working for a public company? In that case, margins might be the pressure. And therefore, if you're a public company, yes, you still need to evolve, and you still need to come up with some revolutionary ideas. But most of the time, you will be looking for operational efficiency. So you do need to kind of your bias are going to be more for evolutionary type of experiences. So you take what you have and you make that either cheaper, faster, all of that. Or if you're kind of in this successful category, which is super cool, profitable and private, and you have the sustainable growth, you have the luxury to decide your future yourself. And that's kind of where you can then decide, are you doing more bolder bets because you have sustainable business? And that's kind of where you are not necessarily pressed to reinvent yourself right now, but you can kind of be a little bit more bolder on the transformational bets while preserving the core. And here I gave you some ideas for how the companies typically would think about like placing those bets, but at the same time not forgetting about anything that we talked about before. So, what I want to leave you with is that the question is not should we do AI or not, because everybody definitely should be doing AI at this day and age. But the question is, what is the right balance for our context? What are going to be the right bets, and what is the value that we're going to be creating? And companies that figure that out, they succeed much faster. And then some companies that are just trying to put AI sprinkles everywhere, they are not getting anywhere. So I hope that that is going to help you make some decisions, and would love to learn from you as well. And thank you so much. This is the way to connect with me. Always love connecting. And yeah, open for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elena. Super insightful. Somebody was asking for the deck, and can you bring that slide back up? Because you
Mhm.
actually have
Yep, yep,
you
yep.
have, you have
Absolutely.
directions on doing that.
Yes, absolutely. I'll happy to share a slide deck. Um, yeah, and then here you can connect with me on
Oh,
LinkedIn or
there we
Instagram,
go.
whatever works.
Yeah. I wonder if I can. No, I can't do that. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we have just a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to throw out to Elena? Looking for other questions here. Yeah, I'll just comment. I really liked how the last slide was talking about, trying to think the right term. It's kind of where you are as a company. I spent a lot of time talking to people about this. Like if you're VC backed, and we were VC backed company, we were acquired by private equity. And so it's kind of like the mental shift. I mean, this goes far beyond AI. It's for pretty much
Yeah.
everything. The dynamics and the physics of how you make decisions there is very different than private equity versus like public companies and things like that. And that always helps to contextualize the kinds of problems you're solving and why you're solving them. And and especially if you went from, there's a lot of consolidation happening, lots of little companies being consolidated by private equity or however they're doing it right now. And so it's just very different. And the successful thought patterns that got you to where you were, they won't be the same ones now that you're here. And so you have to like fundamentally readjust. And sometimes that means people aren't, I mean, we've said this for a long time. People that are good at startups are typically not good for larger companies, or they'll start here and then they'll like sort of say, not I'm not there for it. There tends to be more people sticking with companies today. So being in Austin, lots of startups for me personally, it was like, we get acquired. And, I know Joel, I see Joel there, like he and I worked at CA Technologies, which was a place that acquired a bunch of companies. And then people would say, nuts to this. And we go off to our next thing. Right. And it's interesting because a lot of the startup people are tending to stay at those companies because that's just kind of how the market is. And that's a lot of the guidance that I give to people.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And I think ultimately, it's like I remember myself going through the same experience where I worked for a startup and then it got acquired by eBay and PayPal. And
Hmm.
then like the mental shift didn't happen for me personally. And like nobody like taught me kind of that, like, oh, okay, like now you actually work for this public company
Right.
and therefore you're gonna like you like we're looking for different things. So like for me, I was like frustrated because I was applying the same, I was
Yep.
like doing the same things, and then they were not landing. Either it was leadership or they were
Right.
not needed. And I was like, oh my God, those people are like not like stupid.
Yeah.
Like don't understand. But that's ultimately kind of that's a fundamental shift that needs to happen, that you need to understand the context in which a company operates, and you
Hmm.
also need to understand an any role as much as possible, kind of like what is the financial situation of the company, what are the asks of the company, and kind of from there understand how you can actually make, I don't know, if you're in product, the right strategic product decisions that are accurate for that specific context.
Right. Yeah, totally. And there's lots of things that folks, there's lots of, I always say, like, let's be experimental. Sometimes people I don't like that at big companies. I'm like, oh, pilot projects, right? Sometimes just the terminology. Oh, I tried this thing out. I'm going to demo it. If this little thing that I tried, I've got team members that they have Claude code and stuff, and they're like, oh, I tried this thing out and used some of my tokens. They're not looking for a $3.22 reimbursement. They're just like doing it like, and you see this as an example. And I think the opportunity now, because there is such high interest from an executive, from a board perspective, is like these little projects, and actually it happened at ConnectWise where I work today. It's like created one of the guys created this chatbot that became part of our product suite. And it's like it was just something I sort of stitched together with Python. Like it wasn't really meant to be anything, but all of a sudden it's now the leading forefront. Like this is AI, agentic AI. Again, at our company, we're actually putting a lot of like reality behind this first thing, but he'll be the first one to say, I didn't even mean it for it to go that far. But that's the opportunity today that you can do these experiments, and it's really open to pretty much everybody in the company. That if you just put this to any of those four metrics you were talking about, saving costs, innovation, making it simple and stuff like that, then all of a sudden it can go right to the top and like get approval, and you got a budget, you got a team, and it's like it can be really fast. That sort of internal experimentation. You don't have to wait. A lot of times you don't have to wait for the company to make a big decision. There's a lot of empowerment at the sort of the places where people create value. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it is definitely exciting time for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, I did want to, by the way, thank you. This was great, very thoughtful, insightful, creates a lot of, you know, makes you think. The question or comment I had was, it's also like, with AI, things are going to be way faster. So, in the traditional sense, how people used to kind of have business plans and you had to get approvals and stuff. I'm wondering if that changes in the new world.
Well,
If you have,
I think like it's gonna be my favorite answer as well. Kind of, I think it depends. Uh, it depends on the company culture. So, I think it's much cheaper and faster right now to create a proof of concept and even like validate something with customers, so you can go far. Because like if we think about how we were proposing ideas before, so you would actually like write it all down to get to like from an idea to MVP, kind of even for that you had to have an approval because you would need to have designers and developers and being involved in like testing was hard. Now, um, even for me, so for example, I go from idea to MVP that I vibe code and lovable to synthetic persona interviews and validation, which is obviously built on a lot of the real data. So I have a lot more conviction that something is needed or it's gonna have success. And I ask for the budget approvals a little bit later, but with more conviction. So, but again, like I cannot speak for like to all the company cultures, and I don't know if that's how it works everywhere. But I definitely see a lot of that kind of where the MVP and like a lot of the work is shifting. Like it's a lot of the work is front loaded, and people who were not previously technical are able to do a lot of things right now. And from there, I would
right.
just make an assumption that the way you're going to be asking, or the stage at which you're going to be asking for approval in the budget is going to be changing a lot, because you're not going to be just asking for budget based on idea. You're going to be asking based on the proof that it's going to bring the money.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking is the whole tranche-based model will continue to become more prevalent, I would think, because now you can actually make progress and show progress much faster.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's important. Thank you for the
All
question.
right. Thanks, Vishal. As Max Akizi says, we start on time and we stop on time, except in the product and AI SIG. So we'll end a little bit late today, which is our way. This is the way, as they say on Mandalorian. But Elena, thank you so much. It was just super great to have you here and provide all the different thoughts, perspectives. The frameworks are so powerful because they transcend any particular company's um, specific context. So it's just great ways of thinking about things and lots of food for thought. We'll post this on YouTube in the next week or so, and so you can rewatch it. And if you Elena's so nice as to share her contact information. So thank you for that. And we will see you all in 2026 in January with a topic to be determined. So I hope everybody has a wonderful end of the year holiday season if you so celebrate. And we'll see you all in the new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.